is the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show.
Three, two, 1, 0.
Hey, you.
Yes?
Yeah, you. Come here for a minute. I want to talk to you. Mama says your brain dead. Bang your head against the wall.
Bang, 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 bang. Ouch!
Can't find peace of mind. Brain needs an overhaul. Bonehead, brain dead. We're all the same. You can't think straight when your heart is in pain. Turn around, hit the ground. Time to lay your burden down.
The views expressed on this broadcast of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show are those of the co-host and guest and do not necessarily reflect those of our affiliates. The topics and opinions on today's show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice. Take 12 Radio is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here's your host,
Yes?
The man.
Yes?
The myth.
Oh my goodness!
The legend.
the Monty Man.
Ah! That's right.
Telling you the truth, man. I
Ain't gonna lie to you.
good guys, bad boys.
We're all the same. Saved by grace is the name of the game.
Turn around, hit the ground.
Time to lay your burden down. Welcome, one and all, to another fine episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, broadcasting from the studios of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting on the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon. And this person right here, that's Marv.
Hey.
Hey, Marv.
What's going on?
Yeah, and right next to him is his hat.
Yeah.
And right next to his hat is no Denver. Denver's, or is he there? The incredible shrinking Denver. We just can't see him, right?
Where's he at?
Well, Denver is out taking care of some important business today that has to do with some good news on his end. We'll let him share that on our next show. But it's Marv and I, and the topic on this show is medication-assisted treatment. Or you could say medicated-assisted recovery in some cases. This is a controversial issue. And it is, man, I've seen some wars break out over this verbally and text-wise on social media. Are people truly in recovery if they're using medication, particularly medication that's addictive, to help them with their addiction issues? And so, I mean, it just kind of seems weird, doesn't it? You know, the use of addictive medications to solve your addiction issues.
Uh-huh.
So we'll see how this thing unfolds. We'll unpack it a little bit. You may be surprised at some of my thoughts. You may not. I'm kind of surprised, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So there you go. So I wish it was really simple. I wish that you could take a pill, one time, and it would all be done. Right?
Right.
Yeah. And just like that song in the beginning, one pill does this, one pill does that. This pill doesn't do anything, you know. And of course, that song was written back in the day when, you know, we got a lot of pill poppers right now. We got a lot of people addicted to opiates. But that was going on back in the 60s. I remember hearing things like yellow jackets and reds, and these are the names that we gave things like Valium and uppers and downers and all that kind of stuff. And so they're back. I'm not sure they ever left, but now they're cloaked in a whole lot of what I would say is justification for the usage and abusiveness of some of these medications. But is it? Is there some legitimate reasons at times for people to use medication to assist their recovery or their treatment? We're going to talk about that. But of course, we have to complain a little bit.
There. It's time for Monty Man's Weekly Whine.
That's right. All right. First of all, you have anything to whine about?
Well, if I thought about it hard enough, I could probably come up with something, but right off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Well, I'm not too disturbed this week. But this is common. I probably have talked about this. It's probably been a good year since I've talked about it. But this time of year, where there's a lot of people shopping for things they may not normally shop for because it's for other people. One of my frustrations is the packaging on some of these things in the store. I mean, you can't buy a pack of gum without it coming in a package this big, with all sorts of advertisement on it. And, you have those, what do you call it? That plastic wrap that is as hard as steel. And when you get it home, it takes a hammer and a chisel to open it, right?
Right.
You get a couple of kids' toys, and I understand it with the kids' toys because they don't want kids swallowing stuff and that kind of thing. But you open up this packaging stuff, and it's rough, and you can cut yourself pretty easily on this really, really hard plastic. So they have now, I saw it at Walmart, they have these shears for opening up Christmas presents. And they're simply called gift shears. And them suckers are sharp, man. So buy yourself a set of gift shears at Walmart if you're having trouble with that. But it's just so frustrating to me that anytime I get anything like that, it's irritating. And so there is a whine that really I can do nothing about that really isn't that big of a deal. But that's all I could come up with.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. So Thanksgiving was good. Thanksgiving good for you? Did you go down to the local 12-step support meeting and eat?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Was it well attended?
It was.
Yeah. Yeah, good deal.
Quite a few people showed up.
Yeah, right on. Good thing. And we had a good time as well. So with the little itty-bitty wine that we do have, we have to counteract that with a win. All right. The win this week actually belongs to Buffy M. Buffy M.
Buffy M.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not going to say her last name, so I have permission to. But so Buffy, she won. She's from Sarasota, Florida. You know where that is?
I have no idea.
It's in Florida. She's the winner of the Monty Man's trivia contest. I put a trivia contest up on Facebook, and she won. And I'm going to be doing more of those. In fact, I'm going to do one today. And she won a Take 12 Recovery Radio mug, and I think a couple of DVDs or a music DVD or something. I can't remember. I give so many of these things away, I can't keep track of it. But so I'm going to give people an opportunity to win a Take 12 Recovery Radio mug and a special holiday CD, music CD from Take 12 Recovery Radio. And this is what you have to know. Okay, so Marv, I don't even know if you know this, but a couple of shows ago, you said that you cannot legislate something. And so that's the trivia question. What did Marv say you cannot legislate? We'll see how well you go. So I think it was, I think it was 2 shows ago. So if you go 2 shows back and listen to it, And the first person to email me at take12radio@comcast.net. Tell me what Marv said you cannot legislate. Do you know what it is, Marv? Don't say it.
Yeah,
Do
I
you?
do.
Yeah. In fact, I can tell you exactly what show it was. It was Recovery in the Potty Mouth.
Oh,
It was that show. Yeah.
Okay.
So go back to Recovery in the Potty Mouth, and you can do that on Podomatic or Spotify or iHeartRadio or YouTube or Apple Podcasts or WordPress. All of them there.
there. Yeah.
And listen to the show, Recovery in the Potty Mouth. What did Marv say you cannot legislate? And we'll send you a Take 12 Radio mug and a special Christmas CD from Take 12 Recovery Radio. Okay, let's see here. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to hit this topic, medication-assisted treatment. Don't go away. Check this out.
In the fabric of America, they are the toughest threads, our bravest, and most selfless. They raised their hands, stepped forward, and served. For each other, for you, and me. One of the first things they learned was the code that every service member lives by. Leave no one behind. Now all of us need to live by it too, because some veterans are being left behind. 20 of them take their own lives every day. Why? It's not simple. It never is. What matters is that we're there for them, just like they were there for us. A handshake, a phone call, a simple gesture make a big difference to a veteran in crisis. Learn how to be there for a veteran at BeThereForVeterans.com. Honor the code. Be there. Leave no one behind.
Hey, check it out. The best in recovery talk and positive music radio is now available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and Podomatic. Simply visit any of these platforms and search for Take 12 Recovery Radio. Listen and download hundreds of our shows for fun and for free. Also available at take12radio.com.
Hi, this is Tommy Holmes, and this is the recovery talk and positive music of take12radio.com.
Thank you, Mr. Tommy Holmes. We'll be featuring one of Tommy's songs entitled It Ain't Over Yet at the end of this show. All right. Welcome back. This is Take 12 Recovery Radio, and we are located at take12radio.com on your internet dial. Please know this, that if you're watching us on YouTube, you can comment. Podomatic or any of the other platforms, you can comment. We would appreciate your comments, your questions. If you'd rather keep them private and send us an email, send it to take12radio@comcast.net. Okay, so medication-assisted treatment. You know, we've had kind of a controversial thing go on for a very long time when it comes to people's opinion of what sober is, for instance. Personally, mine is sober does not mean just not drunk. It means that you're abstinent. You know, for the alcoholic, that means that you're not putting alcohol in your system. For the narcotic addict, you're not putting narcotics in your system. In Narcotics Anonymous, they would refer to that as being clean. In Alcoholics Anonymous, they would refer that to being sober. However you use it or whatever semantics you're using, you're talking about abstinence. But recovery is more than just abstinence, right, Marv?
That's for sure.
Yeah. So for you, when you put the plug in the jug, so to speak, and you started getting some clarity of mind, what are some of the things that you discovered about yourself not drinking that you may not have known if you kept drinking?
Oh, I believe that one of the major things, and actually it came up within the first 2 or 3 meetings was the realization that my thinking was askew, and it was kind of like somebody slapped me upside the face.
Yeah.
I realized pretty quick that the way I was operating, the way I was thinking, and it was based on what I was hearing in the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing, for sure, and and that covers.
Oh, yeah. So whatever you can think about, right? That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Yeah. Including perspective.
So was your perspective and your thinking, was it kind of thwarted, messed up, sober?
Well, progress, not perfection.
Sure.
There was no big burning bushes.
Right.
But in hindsight's always 20/20. I get into it, I don't know, let's just say a year.
Sure.
And look back, and all of a sudden you say, wow, how did that happen? Or I can't believe I didn't blow up, or whatever the case might have been.
Right. Right.
So it's just been a slow.
Do you think that if you had the opportunity, or it was recommended to you by a general practitioner or an addictionologist or somebody like that, that you take some medication, mind-altering medication I'm talking about, in order to help you through alcohol withdrawal or just to stay off the alcohol, do you think that would have hindered you or helped you?
Well, it would have hindered me.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Okay.
And part of the reason I say that is because I went through a period about 3 years ago, and the doctors thought it necessary that I take, what was it called, Xanax.
Okay, right.
Anxiety,
Medication.
depression, and stuff like that. And, I mean, obviously I'm still here, but the way I recollect that whole experience, it really didn't help me.
It wasn't helpful.
No.
Are you more clear-minded without that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking about medication-assisted treatment, I want to make it really clear here. I'm not. My intent is not to throw any treatment center under the bus or any individual that is using medication to help them in their recovery under the bus. This is just my opinion. I am certainly not a medical doctor. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I've got some certifications in the areas of recovery, but those are not. I'm not a PhD. I'm none of that stuff. So I don't want to talk out one side of my neck here and not know what I'm talking about. So I don't know what I'm talking about in a lot of ways when it comes to medication-assisted recovery. I'm not that familiar with it. I wasn't personally. It wasn't something that I took advantage of or necessarily was even available at the time. But I do have some thoughts on this. And I know it's a real controversial issue. This is referred to as MAT, M-A-T, within the clinical circles and treatment centers. So let me just read you medication-assisted treatment. Let me just read you this a little bit. There are mixed beliefs about using products such as methadone and Suboxone to help those addicted to narcotics. Traditionally, abstinence from opiates such as OxyContin, oxycodone, hydrocodone, and heroin, etc., is very challenging. Medication-assisted treatment can be used to wean individuals from using these drugs, making the withdrawal process more tolerable. Both suppresses the user's desire to use opiates. Okay, I'm going to continue reading, but first I want to interject this. I am not against helping anybody get through withdrawal. It's a horrible, horrible ordeal. When I had both of my hips replaced, they put me on opiate-based pain medication, and it was horrific. I hated it. And it wasn't a matter of 5-day, sticking it out for 5 days like you may see on TV, right? It was a matter of withdrawing and my body coming back to health. It took about 5 months. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. For that reason, unless it's life or death, Marv, I don't want nobody cutting on me.
Right.
It was that horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know if there might be some allergy there to it, because some people have said, wow, that's a long time to deal with withdrawal. But for me and my bod, unless it's life or death, like open heart surgery or something like that, I'm not doing it. And it's not from the fear of going back out and drinking again or putting a needle in my arm. It's because the experience was so horrific. I just don't want to repeat that. But if you are addicted to the point and you're so chemically dependent on a narcotic that the withdrawal is that horrific, I'm not against you getting help for that. Based on my experience, I don't know that I would. I mean, if there was some ways to help with that withdrawal, that I wouldn't have taken it. But that's the road I chose to go down. It was not to do anything other than cold turkey, and to wean off per doctor's, guidance. Let me continue to read here. However, both have long-lasting potential side effects and present dangers if not used properly. There's the optimal statement. If not used properly. I'm going to come back to that. In addition, both can become a crutch and are open to being abused. We're talking about methadone and Suboxone. Methadone is used to provide assistance to heroin users and make the detox process less uncomfortable. However, the detox from methadone can be more painful than the detox from opiates. The problem associated with it is that many people begin using it as a crutch and become dependent on the methadone. Suboxone also causes the user to lose the urge to use. If they do use, they do not get the normal high they would get if they were not using Suboxone. While these medications may be helpful in some cases, they only treat part of the situation. Medication-assisted treatment does not address emotional or therapeutic issues that may have led to substance abuse in the first place. Anyone receiving medication-assisted treatment should also be engaged in either residential or outpatient counseling sessions. I absolutely agree with that. So here's the thing. These cause side effects if not used properly. So I said I wanted to come back to that. The problem here is there are treatment facilities that will put you on methadone or Suboxone to help you withdraw from these horrible, horrible, dirty drugs. But they release you from the treatment center before they wean you off the methadone or the Suboxone. And that is what I have an issue with. Because now you are managing another addiction and you're continuing to use. Marv, I know people that have been using methadone and Suboxone for 3-4 years. They're still on it. Why is that? I don't get it. But I'm being told by some people that I have a lot of respect for, but I highly disagree with, that, well, they're managing their addiction. What? What happened to managing your sobriety? You know what I'm saying? I don't understand. Now, I have a buddy that worked at a treatment center up in the Northwest, and they use Suboxone. And I said, do you guys wean the client off before he's released from the center? And he said, absolutely. They don't leave here until they've been weaned off the Suboxone. I think that's the right way to do it. Right. Of course, that means a more lengthy stay, which the insurance companies just love that. The pharmaceutical companies do too, because that means more drugs. So it's a mixed bag. Now, I know people in our particular 12-step fellowship that currently use these medications, and they've been taking them for some time. In your humble opinion, Mr. Marvar,
Oh no.
do you consider that sober?
While you've been talking, I really am ignorant about the drug culture.
Yeah,
I was an alcoholic,
right.
and
And that was really
and
the only
so-
drug you consumed, right? You weren't taking in narcotics.
Right.
Right.
So part of my problem with answering that question is I don't know the reality of what that withdrawal is like.
Right.
And but one of the things that I thought about was it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. I have both programs talk about that's just a symptom of our problem.
The
And
usage of whatever.
and
right.
they talk about the psychic change. Now I understand that's not going to be a boom all of a sudden, you
Right.
know. But so based on that, based on if somebody's being honest and really wanting to not be addicted to anything,
Mm-hmm.
then why would you take that stuff to start with?
Right.
So, but like I said, I don't understand what's going on in the body
Yeah.
with drugs and the withdrawal. and
It's
stuff.
god awful, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, Marv, too. I believe in some cases. So this is the flip side of that for me. There are some people, if they're not assisted that way, they're apt to go back to what they were using before anyway, because the withdrawal is so bad.
Well, we see that
Right.
all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would it not be better to help them wean off of the lesser of two evils so they don't go back to their original narcotic, as long as it is supervised medically? Some people say yes, that would be better.
Well, Ralph, thinking about it just
Yeah.
now, I mean, it does seem like why would you put them back on the street addicted to something else?
Right.
I guess
Yeah.
that's the question or the statement you
Yeah.
made earlier, and that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. So I'm just, it's a rough one to try to really have, a real opinion on one side or the other, because I see both sides of the spectrum here. There's a lot of right fighters out there within the 12-step world that they're making statements like, well, people just need to pull up their diaper and deal with it and just, stop drinking or stop using, pull the needle out. And
Well, we know that don't work.
no, but they're like back in my day, hey kid, back in my day, we just stopped cold turkey. And if you've got the cojones to do that, then you're welcome here. But if you don't, you're just wimping out, and good luck to you.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the answer at all. But we got a lot of people doing that. Now, there's a lot of people, quite frankly, who are alive today because of some of these medications that may not be alive. How can you argue with that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Vivitrol is a drug that is injected, can be injected in the hip, that if you take opiates, there's no payoff. You don't get high. And so I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Dr. Finkelstein, I think is how you pronounce it. He worked for Mr. Gorski, Dr. Gorski, who is the author of Required Reading when you're going through your certification for Certified Alcohol and Drug Counselor level 1, 2, and 3. I met him. I was invited to a very intimate dinner setting. There was probably 12 of us, and he presented the whole idea of this Vivitrol thing. And he asked those of us sitting there, how long would you continue to take a drug if there was no payoff? And Vivitrol makes it to where you don't get high. So you would stop taking the drugs because you're not getting high anymore. And I thought for a minute, and I thought, I disagree. How long does the gambling addict sit at the one-armed bandit putting money in that thing, and there's never a payoff? But they keep doing it. They keep going back. So I don't know that that answers the question. I don't know that that was the right question to even be asked. People will continue to use even if there's not a payoff, hoping against all hope that they will get high. There's a dopamine. Dopamine is activated even in the search, like drug seeking. There's dopamine activated in the gambling halls without ever winning any money or getting that high. And marketers in the casinos know this. That's why he got the bells. That's why he got all the colors and all that stuff going on, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's releasing dopamine, and so you are getting somewhat of a high off of it. So I don't know. I don't know that that's the answer either. I do know I have on order right now some Narcan, which I intend to keep in my car, which is a spray that you spray in the nostrils of a person who is overdosing on opiates, and it will save their life.
Yes.
Back in the days of Bill and Bob, I'm losing my voice, they would carry bathtub gin in their glove boxes. They'd come across an alcoholic who was going through the DTs. In order to get him from point A to point B, which was the hospital, they'd have to pour some of this stuff down his throat because he could die. It's the same thing with heroin use. You get this Narcan, you can save a person's life, get him to the hospital. Now we can deal with his recovery, but we got to keep him alive, right?
Right.
So I think that's a good thing. Is that medication-assisted treatment? I don't know that it falls under that category. It certainly does fall under the category of saving the guy's life. So this is a big bag of worms. And I see a lot of people abusing it. Like I said, I know of a couple of people in Alcoholics Anonymous that are abusing the Suboxone. They've been on it for years. And you know what? They're just kind of glassy-eyed and not really there. They're just, you talk
Right.
to them, and they're just kind of, Denver will attest to that. He lived in a sober living home where people were using Suboxone for a long time, and they're just not there when you talk to them. So
You know,
go ahead.
Yeah. You talking about all this stuff and brings up something that people, I don't think, take very seriously in how it works, where it says half measures avail us nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what I'm hearing about this situation.
Yeah.
Is kind of a half measure. You know, forget about the fact that it's, number one, just a symptom. Number two, there's a whole lot of other things wrong.
Right.
You know,
Than just the physical addiction.
yeah. And anyway, that just struck me.
And I agree
while
because
you're talking.
how do you deal with some of the underlying issues that aren't the symptom, right? If you're foggy headed,
Exactly.
you know, and because we know that in the medical profession, they're very quick to tell you we don't chase down symptoms, we chase down causes. Now, obviously, you have to get the symptom out of the way. So, you know, being drunk or being high or being stoned or whatever, we need to get that out of the way. We need to bring abstinence to the board to get that out of the way, to give you some time to get clear-headed again so you can have more lengthy moments of clarity so you can address these underlying issues. Managing your addiction through Suboxone and methadone and other drugs for years on end, are you ever going to get to the root cause? I don't know. I'd like to hear from some listeners. Were you able to get to the root cause of your addiction issues when you were under the influence of these other narcotics? I had a good friend of mine who is very involved in medication-assisted treatment at one of the recovery events up in Salem here a couple months ago during National Recovery Month. And he was talking, I was interviewing him for the show, and he was talking to me about Suboxone. He said Suboxone is not a mind-altering substance. I just about fell over. What do you mean it's not a mind-altering substance? Of course it is. It alters the way you think. Heck, caffeine is a mind-altering substance, right? You take a guy's cup of coffee away from him that's been drinking a cup of coffee every morning for the last 20 years. You want to see how altered his mind gets? It gets altered, man, really quickly. Tobacco is a mind-altering substance. You take tobacco away from somebody, cut them off, they're thinking differently. Now, neither one of those are going to land you in the slammer, you know.
Right.
But let's call a spade a spade. Here's an article I wanted to read. Suboxone as an opiate maintenance drug. These patients, talking about people on Suboxone, were attempting to overcome addictions to powerful narcotics like heroin and OxyContin, and many doctors offered Suboxone as the answer to these patients. However, regardless of the justifications or rationalizations from many within the medical and addiction treatment field, the basic premise of a Suboxone maintenance program is trading one illegal drug for a legal drug. It is saying, take this pill and you'll be okay. Or take this pill and it will take care of your addiction issues. Basically, patients going into a doctor's office to find a way to overcome their addiction are years later finding themselves still physically dependent and addicted to a substance. Suboxone keeps opiate withdrawal symptoms at bay, but does not offer any actual treatment and clearly does not offer a solution for overcoming addiction. Take the Suboxone supply away from a person on a Suboxone maintenance program, and there is little doubt that they will turn to heroin or OxyContin or another form of opiate once withdrawal symptoms begin. This is not the patient's fault. They were sold a faulty bill of goods by many of those people prescribing Suboxone. I got to say that I get that. You take it away, they're on a Suboxone maintenance program. We got guys coming into the Adult and Teen Challenge Center. We don't let them be on Suboxone. They have to go wean off of that before we even let them come in. Yeah. Because we've had them come in claiming that they aren't using that, and then we found out later that they were, and they're having a horrible time, and they leave the program and they go back out and use heroin again.
You know, I wonder, the other day on OPB radio or NPR,
Yeah.
they were talking about, actually it was a little bit different because what they were talking about is AA recovery versus medical recovery. In other words, 100% medical.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that quite a bit. And, you know, I maybe I've just got it ingrained in me so deep that I can't see another way. But dadgone it, it's a spiritual problem.
Yes.
And how in the world do you justify solving? I come up with a little saying, and what it is it's kind of a sad commentary when we depend entirely on our intelligence to discern spiritual matters.
That is excellent.
You know, and that's kind of what I see the medical field doing. What are they doing besides just giving these people
Yeah.
this? Are they saying, hey, if you want to, we got a meeting coming up here. You want to, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's, I can see medical necessity, but the kind of things you're talking about, I'm not quite sure about.
Yeah.
But I also know for a fact that the problem has to do with spiritual implication.
Yes.
To change our lives, to change our thinking. And that's not done by being a professor or a doctor and using your intelligence to...
or staying numb.
Staying numb, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right. Well...
So it is kind of
I think it's a mess. I really do, and I don't think the jury is out yet on this. I really don't. I have good friends that profess the use of cannabis. Well, at least I'm not using heroin anymore. I'm managing my addiction by using marijuana. I'm sorry, that is not clean and sober. You could call it whatever you want to, but a spade's a spade, man. I have a very dear friend who lives in Texas, who I have a lot of respect for, and she has been she's been on this show. In fact, her and I co-hosted a show for quite a while, and everything I read that she writes, she's all for a lot of this stuff that involves the use of cannabis, and I'm not talking about CBD without THC, but marijuana itself. I don't get it. I don't get it. Clean is clean. Using is using. I suppose it's a personal choice. How free do you want to be? But please don't say that you're sober if you're using, because you're not.
Right.
You just aren't. I'm not here to say that you need to be sober. I'm just saying don't call it sober when it's not sober. That just isn't right. And we live in a world of justifications. Boy, do we ever. We talk about, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about, like you said, half measures and the easier, softer way. And I think we, as people in recovery, that we are constantly looking for ways to avoid the hard work.
Amen.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
And if we can, trade to something else. Now, I'm not arguing that there have been lives saved. There are people that haven't gone back to, they may be on a Suboxone maintenance program, and they're not breaking into stores and cars and breaking the law anymore. I know that. But what happens when they can't afford their Suboxone anymore? What happens when their insurance company stops paying for it? What happens? Well, I'll tell you what happens. They go back. They go back because the withdrawal from Suboxone is horrific as well. So I don't know. Listeners, what do you think? I don't know. I haven't made a real, I don't have a dogmatic decision on this yet. I'm confused. It's not for me. I don't want nothing to do with it. If I'm working with somebody, if I'm sponsoring somebody, I am not going to recommend that they trade one drug for another drug. And I'm not talking about when you're so sick, you need a drug to help you withdraw. I'm all for that. But doggone it, let's get you off of those as well.
Yes.
It's just, but pharmaceutical companies don't want you off of them. No. And yeah.
We don't want to get into the medical system either.
Lord.
I'll create a real wine.
I know there are some of you listening that do engage in medication-assisted treatment. Hey, send me an email. How's that working for you? Is it working? Is it taking care of the issues? Are you in a program where you're actually weaning off that as well? Or is this long-term for you? Is this something that is going to be something that you need to do for the rest of your life? The gentleman I talked to up in Salem said, for many of these people, they're going to need to be on Suboxone for the rest of their lives. I don't understand that. Somebody help me understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. It just don't.
Right.
It just don't. So anyway, I'm sure I'll get some emails on this. Again, I have not made up my mind yet. I don't know. I'm leaning more towards not than I am to saying, yes, it's a good idea. But I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. Well, listen, if you can tell us what Marv said was the one thing you cannot legislate from the show Recovery in the Potty Mouth, And you're the first email to send that answer to me. Take 12 Radio, TAKE, the number 12 radio at Comcast.net. We'll send you a Take 12 Radio coffee mug and also a Christmas CD produced here at our studios just for you. And that's all I got to say about that. Marv, any closing thoughts?
No, that's pretty much it for me, too.
All righty. Our closing song is by our friend Tommy Holmes. Tommy has written songs for series Dawson's Creek from years ago. He's written for other people as well. But his music is, I don't know, it's just crystal clear. He's just got an excellent voice. And this song is called It Ain't Over Yet. So one of the things when you get our age, Marv, is sometimes we will live in the past a little bit more than maybe looking forward because we're thinking we don't have much forward left to look forward to. Right.
Right.
And we can get a little somber and we can get a little melancholy. And, you know, if you got too much of that thinking in the past, you do miss stuff that's going on now and stuff that is still in your future. And I found myself at one time being so nostalgic, it was getting a little pathetic. You know, looking through my high school yearbook and just being heartbroken that I wasn't back there again and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very nostalgic guy, you know. And then meeting up with friends I hadn't seen through high school and looking at them and going, I don't know this guy. You don't look anything like this guy, you know, and just kind of being sad because of that. That's crazy. But those kind of things you kind of think about when you get older. Well, this song, It Ain't Over Yet, kind of addresses that, you know. So this is life. This is it. You know, this is the thing you're supposed to get. But, you know, don't laugh too long because it ain't over yet, man. It just isn't. So here's Tommy with our closing song. And we'll have a little statement at the end of the show. So, Marv.
Adios.
Adios, amigos.
Hope Denver makes it
You
back.
came to be in a room at the Holiday Inn. It took a whole lot of love and a little bit of seeing. Yeah, but you made it alright. Well, your mama smiled, she kissed your face. Daddy cried and thanked God for grace. On the day you were born, you grew up fast, you went to school. You weren't too smart and you weren't too cool. You were always halfway there. And now you don't know who you are. A chip off the block or a rock and roll star. Baby, get in line. Oh, don't turn around. You can't go back. So this is life, and this is it. So this is the joke you're supposed to get it. Oh, but don't laugh too loud. It ain't over yet. We had some loves and some had you. You danced all night and you sang the blues. And still the beat goes on. Another ball comes dropping down. You slipped a lot, but you stuck around. And isn't that what counts? Oh, but don't close your eyes. There's more to come. So this is life, and this is it. So this is a joke you're supposed to get. Oh, but don't laugh too loud. It ain't over yet.
And that was our friend, Mr. Tommy Holmes. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
Good guys, bad boys, we're all the same. Saved by grace is the name of the game. Turn around, hit the ground, time to lay a burden down.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Cause she's a super cat, she's super kitty, meow.
Yeah, kitty, 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 meow.